schedule and keep the conversation going, and you'd usher me out the door. So, Steve, I wasn't able to get clients because you did not see me as a marketing guy. You saw me as a ministry guy. And I knew I had to fix that. So I went to my church one day and I paced in the hallways back and forth, crying out to God, saying, Lord, how do I help Steve? Because I know I can. And God gave me the idea to take all of my marketing strategies and to put them in a book. So I wrote my first book on marketing back in 2013. And then, Steve, what I do is I'd call you, I'd set an appointment. I'd mail a copy of my book to you. And I'd walk into your office, and there it was. My book was on your desk. It was dog-eared, highlighted, underlined. You'd read my book. And in that meeting, you'd say, now, Michael, in your book, you said, how do you help me do that? And you'd hire me. And Steve, I started gaining clients, and I had to stop and say, wait a minute, what changed? Well, the only thing that changed is I put my thoughts into a book, and you saw me and thought of me as an expert in marketing because I had a book. And that was the idea that said, wait a minute, why don't business owners create a book and use it to gain clients? Because business owners are experts at what they do, but they're fighting the battle with all of their competitors. And so that was the impetus of this idea to help business owners become experts and authors and do it without writing a word.
So why? See, for me, the whole exercise and living a long life, I've said it since I'm 30 for people who know me. I truly want to live till I'm 100, and I want it to be a good 100. So for me to get up earlier than I normally do to do what I have to do, it's not that hard because it's a value, it's a motivator. I'm very accountable, and I'm also in a text chain with my brother and Al, and we hold each other accountable. That's the environment, and that's what we have to do to teach people to be accountable, is we have to understand them, and then we have to let them know we're going to hold you accountable for this. And Steve, when I say I'm going to hold you accountable, I want you to look at it like this. It's a gift. I'm giving you a gift. I'm not micromanaging. I'm not looking over your shoulder. What I am doing is I'm providing you a gift. And if I don't hold you accountable, Steve, I'm letting you down as your partner and your friend and a business associate. So I will hold you accountable because I'm not going to let you down. So everyone out there, encourage people to have an accountability support system. And if people say they're going to do something, encourage them to tell the whole world.
Yeah.
Many people don't share their goals and they don't share what they're going to do, because if they do that, what does it do, Steve?
Doesn't happen.
Well, it makes them accountable. And ultimately, everybody wants to be accountable.
Yeah.
So tell everybody.
Yeah.
We just did a 5-day fast. Tell everybody. Because as you're about to quit on day 3, you're like, oh, I told Ramon in California I'm doing this. And he's going to ask me about it. Am I really going to say I stopped? Little things like that are competitive edges in holding people accountable. Get them to share it. Broadcast it. Support people. Let them know it's a gift. And then tell them, you need to give that same gift that I'm giving you.
I loved it 4 times a month. I love this networking thing, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I was there. And I decided that if I was going to continue facilitating events for other networking groups, if I was going to really put my efforts into leading my own group, I had to figure out the how, the what, and the why of successful networking. And I think it all comes down to this for me, that the human brain can remember about 100 people, maybe 150. And that meant that if I had 150 really close connections who knew me, knew my offers, I knew them, knew their offers, that we could intentionally create more business for each other. But the magic part is when you start to realize, okay, I have my 100, or I even have 20. 20 really good referral partners can change your business. But the magic came in when I learned, well, I can only remember 100 or 150 people, but I can have 1,000 people. I could have 10,000 people know me. And that was the game changer in my business.
Audience,
Hmm.
this is why she's on, because that's $1 million tip right there. Most important thing for sales for me.
What is it for me?
For them, when they say for me,
Oh.
I'm sorry, that was not a good host. I didn't clarify.
I was like, well, revenue? I don't
Right,
trick
yeah.
question.
Yeah, because they're always, I want to be better
yeah.
at it. What's that?
Gosh, that's a really good question, Steve. I think maybe I'll go back to doing both a strategy as well as a mindset. We as entrepreneurs, I'm also an entrepreneur, I'm a founder. I think something that can hold us back sometimes is actually our passion for the thing that we are building and the work that we are doing. Because our default communication style then tends to be us talking about the thing we're doing because we are so excited about what we're building. And we start talking about ourselves and our services and products and our company before we've earned the right to ask a relative stranger to give a heck. So I think one thing I would share with entrepreneurs is really, really important is like, yes, that passion is incredible. Like keep that passion and that energy around what you are bringing into the world high. But also remember, just because it's important to you, that doesn't mean that you've earned the right to expect other people to care. And what's going to get you better results is talking about what is relevant to them, which are the problems that are top of mind for them that ultimately you can solve. But if you stay more focused on their problems and what matters and is most relevant to them, you will more quickly earn the right to talk about the things you're excited to share.
AI is a big subject, and we'll get into that in a minute. But sales is such a big topic for everybody because, again, like I said at the beginning, everybody's doing it. And again, the questions keep flying. And this is a really good question. Where is that one? Now I call it transformational, not transactional. They're calling it transactional versus consultative, which to me is transformative and consultative. What truly changes? How do we do that? How do we stay away from the transactional and become more consultative?
I don't think we need to stay away from transactional. Like there are plenty of business models that should be hugely transactional. Like you don't need to know my pets' names. You don't need to know personal deal, right? Like there are plenty of things that people buy that simply do not require a relationship. That doesn't mean they don't require trust, but like there are plenty of things that you should be able to buy with one simple phone call that doesn't need multiple phone calls or an in-depth process. So I think that transactional selling gets a bit of a bad rep, but when used appropriately, really what we're saying is that we're just removing friction and making it easier for a customer to complete the transaction quickly, to buy what they want quickly. So I don't think it gets a bad rep, but I've also seen, like I grew up in a very transactional environment, like one call close or like 24-hour sales cycles, like a 2K price point. So things were moving quickly. What I have seen is that reps often struggle to move out of that more transactional, or I see it a lot with BDRs who are really more in an order taker role. They struggle to transition to a more consultative approach. And the gap is questions. They do not have the skill set to ask questions that are not qualifying questions. So that I think that's what truly changes when you're moving from a transactional to a consultative approach, is that you become better at asking smart questions that help you identify gaps and help you better match the prospect's needs to the things that you can help them solve for.
America is a most astonishing country in terms of many things, but including generosity. And, I started working. I never consciously realized that I live in America now. What happens is at a certain point, you think, well, this is a bummer. Half of my clothes are in the wrong place. And eventually I got my green card, and eventually I went down and raised my right hand and got sworn in as a citizen. Incredibly moving. I take it very seriously. The American dream, it's not a one-way street. The American dream is, we'll let you in, work hard, pay tax, do well, and make sure you're a good citizen, help other people. And I've been trying to do that ever since. And not only do I think I have put a dent in some issues, some problems, some challenges that nobody else seemed to be dealing with, but in addition, I've made myself very, very disproportionately happy by helping other people.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad I mentioned the background. I usually start with it because you mentioned mentoring. You're a wonderful mentor. I've actually talked to you. I'm telling you now live. I've talked to some people that have heard about your mentoring, and you've made a huge impact. And of course, we'll talk about that story. Do people really need a mentor? I'm talking about everybody.
I think everybody. I mean, I have every Friday morning, I'm on an incredible Zoom with a dozen or so acquaintances and friends. They really are friends now. They mentor me. I mentor them. It is a kind of group therapy for mentors. And I just love it to death. And I save up things to ask for advice on. I think everybody needs a mentor. At this point, because one of my nonprofits that I started is called First Star, where we house, educate, and encourage teenage foster kids with the goal of getting them into college so they can make a life and, rise up through the glass ceiling of their abuse and neglect and whatever horrible background they've had. I've mentored hundreds and hundreds of young adults, and I developed a kind of pattern recognition. I realized there's like 24 things that they mostly seem to want to talk about. What is a good risk? What is a bad risk? How can I tell the difference? I'm being bullied. I can't do the math homework. How do I find love? Should I go to college? All of these monster challenges that young adults have. In the case of foster kids, and there's 500,000 of them in the United States, they haven't got anybody to advise them. They're living with strangers. There are no, parents to help them. And what we do is we use 12 huge universities from UCLA right across the country to the University of Miami. And we house the program for grades 10 through 12, I should say 9 through 12, on the university campus. And we kind of use the university every which way as a kind of uncle, family, academic coach, facilities, dorms, lecture theaters, the swimming pools, etc., etc. And it really, really works. In the United States, less than 9% of American foster kids go to colleges or universities. But this most recent June, across the country, we didn't get them in. They got themselves in. We just helped. We gave them the ladder, but they climbed up it. 89% went on to colleges and universities, roughly 50-50 within that to 2-year or 4-year community college or a bachelor's degree. And of course, some of the ones, roughly half of those who go to community college and get an associate's degree, they later convert to a 4-year for their junior and senior year, and they end up with a bachelor's anyway. We've been doing it so long now, not only do we know it works, but we're able to hire back and have as visiting mentor lecturers the adults who have been all the way through our 4 years, then they've been through college, and now they're professionals. We have engineers, we have doctors, we have CPAs, we have musicians, we got everything. An architect and an urban planner. Why do you want to be an urban planner? because nobody does urban planning for poor neighborhoods, and that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
How did you learn all this? Because I believe you were born in Cuba. Correct me if I'm wrong. Venezuela. Okay, from South America, and so she's an immigrant, which I love immigrants because they make this world grow. So how did you learn this coming from Venezuela to the United States, and then start feeling this masculine, feminine energy?
I learned it after a divorce and a marriage that ended after 22 years. And when I realized this, it was a bit late for my marriage, but it certainly set me on a path of wanting to share this. So I went to an event, and the big master Tony Robbins was explaining this to a woman, that he was doing an intervention of typical interventions that Tony does, right? And I was sitting there going like, oh my dear Lord, this is the life that I've lived. I've been in my masculine energy basically most of my life, ever since I was a little girl. I never realized it. My artistic side may be in touch with my feminine sometimes, because I always loved dancing and creating things, but I wasn't pursuing it as I should. And I was about conquering doing. I did the corporate world, did it for many years. One of the jobs was Microsoft for 12 years. And that world certainly enhances the masculine in all of us. And it did for me. And I love my masculine, don't get me wrong. It's the go-getter, it's the dopamine hit. It's that side of us that wants to conquer things, right? And conquering is a great feeling when you get that thing. But if we don't balance it with the feminine, and this is for companies, people, men or women, you're always on overdrive. Your body feels it, and especially for women. And we can get into biology if you want to. But that's how I learned it, by somebody explaining what was happening and me admitting, because that's the first thing, that was me. Super controlling, super, critical.
Yeah.
OCD. And so stage hypnosis can be a lot of fun, and it's kept our profession alive for sure. But the downside of it is it makes people skeptical and mistrusting, and it scares people. Hollywood loves to make it look like hypnosis is going to cause you to remember the murders that you created, or cause you to remember a life that you don't remember, and from the past, and then somehow it's going to make your life worse. When all I have found is that using hypnosis in a powerful way, it just makes your life better.
Well, I gotta say, sorry about that.
Hey, I'm excited about it too.
If I could do what you do, I would be so pumped every morning I woke up, because the good impact that you're making with people. Of course, and I always say this: you have to be paid for that, because there's value to that. But still, the end result is somebody's, can cross bridges now and drive where they couldn't before. Game changer. Yeah. So you talked about trauma.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, a lot of them listen to this. A lot of business owners. I don't know if it's always trauma. There's obstacles. Things happen negatively. How do you help with that? Because that would be a game changer for an entrepreneur. Because we all know you're walking into something like, you're an entrepreneur. You know what it's like. You're going to have great days. You're going to have bad days. So how do we work that?
Yeah, great. Excellent question. So it's not always what we call trauma, right? But there are issues. Like maybe you had a dad that only gave you attention when you were winning. And so now you're 50 years old and you can't let go, even though you have six figures. You're earning six figures, but you can't stop winning, because in your mind, you will be abandoned, or it means that you're not worth anything, right? It doesn't matter what our past accomplishments are. If we have these beliefs in our mind because of our early childhood experiences. And so I call this achiever syndrome. And most achievers, most high performing entrepreneurs have this. We have this feeling like we can't ever let up. that if we stop, somehow everything's going to fall apart. We have a difficult time trusting others. We feel like we have to always be involved, and often we micromanage things, which is what bottlenecks some of our growth or peace of mind. Or we're really strong and powerful in our business, and then we try to use the same strategies at home. And now we're on our second marriage, and we're worried that we're going to be looking for our third, or we're having difficulty with our kids, or you're performing well, but you let your health go, and so now you're struggling with smoking or cocaine, or you're getting high all the time, or you are on prescription medicine to sleep, or you have put on 75 pounds. So entrepreneurs and high performing business owners and CEOs and executives, we're just people, right? Take away all the accolades. And a lot of times the more successful you are, the smaller your inner circle is. And sometimes you just don't have somewhere where you can, as one of my clients said, I don't have anywhere to dump my poison except with you. And they don't have people that they can really trust. And so, that is something that if you're a human, you're always looking to grow, to adapt. Not all of my clients are struggling. I would say 10% of them are doing incredibly well. They're just looking for the next way to elevate, to optimize, to grow to the next level. And they find me because I'm unlocking the power of your unconscious mind. And most people aren't talking about, they're talking about mindset. And this isn't mindset. This goes deeper than that. It's what drives your mindset. So yeah, we can all benefit no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, and no matter where you've been through, what you've been through. There's always another level for you that can create more joy.
But it was when that negative happens, or they're hard to do. With the book, what I loved about is the workbook. Book with the workbook, and you tie in your website to that. Talk about how you do that with the book.
So back to the fact that when you read the book, I wanted to feel like you were being coached. When I coach my clients for real, that's exactly what I do. We have worksheets, there's drills and exercises for immediate takeaways, immediate experiential scenarios. So it's not like read it now and maybe next week you can talk about it. No, I want you to read the chapter, do the exercise, put the book down, and go out and actually put it into practice right away, because you can in real life. Like I mentioned, you're going out with a friend for drinks, you're speaking to a barista at a coffee shop, you have to talk to the board of directors. Yes, take it right into that. And the best way to do that, to take it into real life, is to have the workbook give you something tangible to do. And not only is that interactive, but this is how you build and rewire your neural pathways to learn new behaviors. That's how it works. So the more you do that in the book, the more I walk you through that, that is an integral part of you not only learning this, but developing a new behavior so you feel comfortable, you feel confident all the time when you're speaking. You know how to manage those nerves.
Yeah, and you made a great point. As you were talking, repetition is a big part of the book. I read a couple things over and over again, and I remembered them. And when I met with you before the show, you're like this, you're like, I remembered that. And you're like, okay, he read the book. Not that I, a lie or anything like that, but it's because retention was the word I was thinking of before the show. The retention of your book is so much more seamless than Think and Grow Rich, which we talked about. You got to read multiple times. Nothing wrong with the book. I love the book. It's got great content. But with yours, you seem to retain the information better and can take action quicker.
Absolutely.
Was that the goal?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not successful unless every single person that reads the book or every client I work with is successful. Did they achieve their speaking goals? Are we ascending on their speaking